We are probably the only sneaker company in India that is doing collections right now.
You went from being an investment banker at JP Morgan in Australia to building a culturally rooted sneaker brand in India.
Gully Labs literally started as an Instagram page. We worked with an auntie and her two Kaarigars in a garage. Before we started our factory, everyone said don't do it.
What was that marketing strategy that made Gully Labs go viral?
Try not to solve for everyone. Try to solve for one kind of customer who really cares about your product. I would say any sneaker company in the world, they sort of operate in the 60 to 70% gross margin.
One thing that gets talked about a lot when you talk about Gully Labs is the design.
Be it Axel Arigatos or the Golden Goose or Common Projects. They're all like $300, $400, $500, $600 onward sneakers. We are sort of making those shoes at like a below $100 price, which is insane. I think that's the beauty with startups. If you really want something, you can just get shit done.
What's the most expensive pair of shoes that you have?
There's a saying in Hindi, Sasta roye bar bar, mehenga roye ek bar.
Arjun, welcome to Starting From Scratch. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Hari.
You went from being an investment banker at JP Morgan in Australia to building a culturally rooted sneaker brand in India.
Yeah.
Finance to sneakers, how did it all happen?
I mean, it was not a binary journey, to be honest. Between my career at JP Morgan, where I was an investment banker, I did start another company in Australia that was around, group shopping, group buying, and we pivoted that a few times as well. In that sort of journey, at least which was my first startup journey, I realized and recognized that entrepreneurship is like the next thing I want to do. It seemed to like satiate all my curiosity. It felt like a really cool way to live your life as well. In my mind, it fit that whole ikigai thing, You like doing what you're doing, you're getting paid to do it, and you're spending your time meaningfully. So it sort of gave me meaning. And, at which point decided I will be a founder from this point onwards. I ended up being here, spent some time in the idea maze, and my mind and heart kept going back to consumer, that I should build something consumer facing, and sort of took that thread and had a whole bunch of different ideas. Sneakers was one of them, bubble tea was one of them. And sneakers just felt something I could really, really relate to, like as a guy. And India had a really hyped up sneaker phase at that point of time. This was right after COVID. And there was enough awareness in the market. And just having lived so many years outside India, there was somewhere a feeling in me that Indians did not think of India as cool enough. But I also saw that enough number of people in this new generation did not believe in that or wanted an alternative. I think with these sort of threads in mind, Gully Labs literally started as an Instagram page with us just sharing why Gully Labs needed to exist, and that's how it all sort of came together.
And I think what's also very interesting about, and I don't know if this is the positioning, but what I seem to see is it's not a hyper-patriotic way of being Indian. It's that counterculture of cool way of being Indian.
Yeah, right? Exactly. I think just saying you should buy it just because it's Indian is pretty stupid. Like anyone who is a aware customer will not buy into it.
Yeah.
It's also a very lazy way of sort of sharing something, right? If you have to be cool, you have to stand for something. The product has to be really good, or the sort of design needs to be really good, or people should really, really want it, and that can just come from like lazy nationalistic marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I want to segue a little into the naming also, because I feel like you have some really unique names in there.
Yeah.
Is there a particular strategy you follow to name each product?
Have you been to an IKEA store ever?
IKEA store, yeah.
If you've looked at all the product names there, they're all Scandinavian or Swedish, right? You can't even pronounce 90% of them. Still, people lap it up and they buy it, right? They didn't feel any need to change it. I guess they just called it and just sort of kept going, right?
Yeah.
We were very inspired by that. And therefore, all our sneakers have sort of an element of, things that we grew up with. So the first yellow sneaker was called a Chatai yellow, because, Chatai are yellow and it is that sort of same shape,
Yeah.
Or the red was called Patang red. So I could relate with it. If I say Patang red to anyone in India, even if it's south of India, they will get the reference.
Absolutely.
So, and we've sort of continued that naming convention, like more broadly, very consistently. Even our latest kulfi collection, right? It is like rabdi, badam, pista, kesar.
Right.
If I say these words, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know the exact shade.
Right.
So for a brand, a sneaker company from India, we could not name our sneakers having these sort of these sort of conventions.
One thing that gets talked about a lot when you talk about Gully Labs is the design, right? Can you take us behind that design process? What are your inspirations?
Yeah.
How does it all come together?
Just very macro level, right? We try to solve for what customers have been broadly asking, right? We start from a concept or an idea. We start from what kind of user need there exists right now. And then that sort of goes into our product roadmap and goes into different sort of drops out there. So, for example, the kulfi collection, right? It started from a customer feedback that people need everyday colors to wear. While a lot of our sneakers are very, very design forward and people love them, they can't wear them every day. It's probably for some special occasion.
Yeah.
So they need something to wear every day. All right, we've taken that feedback. People have shared that, right? We want to build for people, not like antagonize them into wearing something they don't want. So that gave us into a color palette. Now we wanted to bake a very strong concept into it. So the summers are coming. What is a sort of very strong Indian sort of summer element, right? If I'm on the western coast of US, it is probably like the LA summer, right? But for India, it's probably kulfi, which is sort of more closely related to where we are from. And that sort of starts developing into a broader concept, which goes into a lot more detailing. And then you start sort of really deciphering each element that goes into the design, be it a tongue label, be it the box packaging, be it the collective that's there in the box. Like the collective for the kulfi collection is a kulfi mold, for example, right? So that's something we put in the box. And that's how you sort of keep sort of going down and breaking down the details. And then you walk backwards from a launch time and you deliver all of that on time. So there is a method to the madness. And we sort of keep iterating on that.
Yeah. Where are Gully Labs shoes manufactured?
So we design, manufacture, and fulfill everything from our factory in Noida.
Why Noida instead of Italy or Vietnam or China, where all the sneakers come from?
We really wanted to optimize for having really good quality, really great materials, and being able to iterate very fast. That meant everything had to be together. Like even if you look at Elon Musk, right? His entire supply chain is co-located. It needs to be co-located because that is what gives you speed in manufacturing. Why does China make really good products? Because the entire supply chain is extremely, extremely integrated. So as a sneaker company, we could not just afford from a time and iteration process, like, just start up, right? Like how quickly you iterate is what determines your insights and how quickly you go in the right direction as a startup. And we didn't want to give up that speed, to which the answer was you had to do it all together. Now, the other alternative was we could have worked with contract manufacturers. Somehow, a lot of them weren't comfortable iterating as fast as you wanted, or the MOQs were insanely high, or they just did not get what we wanted in terms of quality and everything, which all sort of forced us to one sort of direction, which was just do it yourself. And we never thought that we were going to be a manufacturer or a manufacturing company, but that is where our insights led us to. Before we started our factory, everyone said, don't do it. It is like, you are a retailer, you should be selling, manufacturing is not for you. It is an insanely high time sink. But that is what sort of gives us the ability and the capacity to push the boundary on designs, to push the boundary on quality, to really own the supply chain of each individual material that goes in. If a customer gives me feedback today, I can action on it tomorrow. I don't have to go to some long chain of something. If something's not working out, I know exactly why it's not working out, and it gives me the room to improve.
And you started really small, right? 25 pairs a month?
Yeah, 20 to 25 pairs a month. We worked with the auntie and her two Kaarigars in a garage and sort of retrofitted that setup to do product development and put our first line for the first couple of months. Then we went viral on Twitter, Instagram, sold out of everything and realized that we need to just do it ourselves.
Brilliant. Let's talk about that inflection point. Right?
Yeah.
What was that point or what was that marketing strategy that made Gully Labs go ahead?
Like what I see a lot of brands, and not everyone needs to do it, but it worked for Gully Labs, was being opinionated, having a personality and sharing why we are in this journey of building yet another sneaker company. Why you can wear something that is another brand as opposed to something that you've heard for the last 30 years. Sharing that very upfront, transparently, even like pointedly. sort of helped us cut through the noise. And there are people out there, you don't know where they are, but who want this, right? And I guess social media with that sort of voicing and the algorithms got our content to these people. And that made a whole bunch of people aware about Gully Labs. That was what sort of helped us click in the first, 8 to 12 months of our journey.
Where does most of your capital go? Does it go in design, production, marketing, or something else?
I would say most of our capital, right? And now we really get in the depths of how do you capital allocate, but it just goes into procuring materials to make more shoes. And a bunch of it goes into sort of our sampling R&D unit where we keep iterating through like new things that we have to do. Like we sample about 100 shoes a month, right? There are about 2 to 3 new shoes that are getting sampled every day, which sort of helps us build a pipeline, helps us cut through. We don't want these things. We want to work towards these things. So most of our, I would say a big portion of our capital goes into our, working capital, supply chains, because if every subsequent month you are making more shoes than you did the previous month, which means you have a capital hungry business.
Yeah.
So that's the first point. Second point is sort of our team. Like we've recently grown our team. We've gotten some really talented folks to help us for the next, I would say, phase of our journey. So that's the next one.
Got it. Good place to segue into unit economics as well a little bit. Can you maybe percentage split it for me in terms of where that sort of money goes?
Yeah, I would say any sneaker company in the world, this is not specific to us, but they sort of operate in the 60 to 70% gross margin. If it's a really low price shoe, it'll be the margins will be lesser. But otherwise, at a high price shoe, the companies themselves do a lot of sort of allocation of cost. So I would say about 20 to 30% or 40%, between 20 to 40% is the COGS. Companies like ours put like 5-10% in, R&D, experimentation, sampling, and all of those things. We need to do it. We need to do it continuously. While at a much stable scale, at a larger scale, this number would reduce. But we do spend that. Sort of the remaining is split between fulfillment and marketing and the salaries that you pay out.
How did you decide that, hey, this is going to be my target audience and this is not?
Initially, our target audience were people who liked and who appreciated sneakers and who wanted a Gully Labs sneaker.
Right.
I was definitely sure there are enough people in India for me or for the company to run a very good sustainable business. And the early adopters should not be everyone. I don't know, like anyone starting a business, do not try to, I don't like to give advice. So the advice to myself was, try not to solve for everyone. Try to solve for one kind of customer who really cares about your product, because that person will be wax eloquent about what you're building, not a generic person being served a generic product.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think what's very interesting is there's a certain level of expectation that India is used to right now, right? Things come in under 15 minutes. And, everything is very quick to come and easy to get and all of that. The other flip side.
Yeah, we are the opposite. We will take 7 to 15 days for you to get, even though we're trying to shorten that as we get the next sort of level of customer. But yes, we were not fast initially. We have actually delivered sneakers in like 30 days as well, 45 days. That was in the past when you were like super supply constrained. Now it's like a lot faster. But we've had that friction and we've had people who supported us when we were at that level, right?
That's amazing. And I don't think this audience subset of yours at least minds the slowness.
They don't.
In fact, I at least feel like there is some element of looking forward to it because it's being put together for you in some sense. You don't often see a desi homegrown shoe brand collaborate with a legacy motorcycle company. Tell us how the Royal Enfield collab happened and everything about the Bass Hunter that you ended up launching.
We got an inbound from the Enfield team. They want to do something together. And we, in like 45 days time, we went from a concept to a product out there. Again, if you control the supply chain and the product, you are able to do it. Folks can feel that, and which is why we get these sort of inbounds for people to co-create something.
Yeah, and you went from idea to product in under 45 days with Royal Enfield, which then means that creative process just is extremely streamlined. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yes. So we've actually gone faster though. Like right before this podcast, you shared you're from Kochi, right? So our So we have a sneaker that is
Naadu?
the Naadu sneaker, which is inspired from Kerala, which was released around Onam last year, and that went from idea to actual product in 7 days time.
Oh, wow.
Animesh, my co-founder, walked into the office on a Monday, and we'd been discussing this for a really long time, that we should make a regional drop, like very catered to one very specific part of India, and see how that works, right? And that sort of, and he comes in on Monday and says, Onam is 15 days away. Let us put out a sneaker on the weekend, and sort of get it out there. And we used that, and we backsolved everything. We got a design done in 2 days, mocked it up on the 3rd day. We had most of the materials on hand. So from the 4th day, the prototype happened. By the 5th day, we had, and we had someone from Kerala in our team as well. So he really took all of that Onam, imagery and motifs, the boat races, the flower sort of
Carpet that you put for Onam.
Exactly. Yeah. And we took inspiration from the boat, from the flower, and sort of baked it into the tongue label, into the sides of the shoe. And then fortunately, we had folks in the community from Kerala so that we could go send it to them and sort of shoot a whole bunch of content as well. I think that's the beauty with startups. If you really want something, you can just get shit done.
Oh yeah.
If your company isn't that fast, then you should make your company that fast.
Yeah.
But I think that's the beauty with startups. That's how startups can compete with the bigger outliers of the world. Otherwise, otherwise you're like dead on arrival, right? People say, oh, why do you want to make shoes? Like Nike is already there, right? Or someone else is already there. But no, like what we can do, they can't do. What they can do, we can't do right now.
What are the top 3 unique features that a Gully Labs sneaker has, which no other brand in India has today?
So each one of our sneakers is hand lasted. This is the most traditional way of setting the sneaker on the last itself. And it is done manually, which means you use the traditional way of making shoes. What it does is it creates really good proportions and treats the material onto the sneaker in a sort of very lasting way. Oftentimes when you use machines and etc., it is very, very surgical. But that means you can't use your subjectivity to align the shape of the sneaker on the last. It may err 5, 10%, 2-3% here or there. For our shoes, a Kaarigar, okay, just to give you a 101 on making shoes, you take different materials, stitch them together, create an upper. Take that upper, put it on a 3D last, which gives the shoe the shape. Put it on that last, then attach the sole to it, and then your shoe sort of becomes.
Wow.
So that process of attaching is done manually for each one of our shoes. The Kaarigar takes that piece of fabric or leather, pulls it on the sneaker, attaches it with a bunch of different nails at the bottom, heats it, sticks it, then takes off the nails, and then smooths the bottom. That's how each sneaker is done. Now, similar sneakers that are made in Italy, none of them cost below $300 or $25,000. Be it the Axel Arigatos, or the Golden Goose, or Common Projects. Like they're all like $300, $400, $500, $600 onward sneakers, just because of the amount of time it takes to make each one of those sneakers. And we're sort of making those shoes at like a below $100 price, which is insane.
Yeah.
Second one I'll say is each collection. Like we are probably the only sneaker company in India that is doing collections right now. And the sort of design language and the details extend to each shoe in that collection, and in the box, and in the materials, and in the collectibles that you get offered. In fact, every box of ours has a different collectible in it. So, and these are like unique curios and artifacts that sort of exist.
Can you give a couple of examples?
Yes, for sure. Like the hockey shoe collection had a hockey gold medal inside it, inspired by the Indian hockey team and the shoe imagery inside it. The drop that we did for Diwali, in the initial drop, we had a metal laser inscribed matchbox holder and a candle stand as well. But now we don't give the candle out. We only give the matchbox holder. So you can put a matchbox, and it's a very sort of cool, collectible. The kulfi collection has the
kulfi mold.
Has a kulfi mold.
Yeah.
The Baz Indrani has the kungru at the back. The Traveler has a really interesting luggage tag. Like it's a leather luggage tag that you sort of put at the back. So every collection has something unique and interesting for you to keep and treasure. That sort of shares you the amount of detail that's there.
One of the things that I appreciate the most about also the narrative and what's happening behind the scene is how the Kaarigars are a part of the entire universe for you.
Yeah.
I want to touch upon that a little bit on they're partners in some sense, right? And you treat them as partners. I know there was a recent video that I remember stumbling upon how it's not a knocker and it's a Kaarigar.
Yeah, Kaarigar, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
How did that partnership sort of solidify for you? How did you set that system up?
Yeah. I mean, I wish there was a lucid answer to it, but it was like, hey, we need to make great sneakers. Who can help us make sneakers, right? Like, we don't know how to make it ourselves. So our initial team of, so Anshu was the guy who sort of came in and like, I will help you sort of set up a unit, right? So he got the first set of Kaarigars. Those people now, a lot of them sort of lead specific functions because like any startup, right? If you join early, you can have asymptotic growth. So now these people are leading different functions and they are sort of, line managers. I haven't worked in a lot of sneaker companies or manufacturing companies, so I don't know what their culture is. But I do think our culture is a bit like the Fangma of sneaker making, right? we sort of have a premium sort of work vibe and environment. Our Kaarigars take part in the shoots. They inform us of like where things go right and not go right. They have a path to accelerate as the company is growing. So I think it's done a bit differently. And having that partnership allows us to work in that sort of have their partnership when we want to, scale up, scale down, and have them be a part of that journey. So yes, I do think it is not very, it is a bit different to what an ordinary sneaker manufacturing setup will be, just because like we approach it from a first principles perspective, right? We need partners in making these sneakers. They go beyond just, doing their job. They are a part of a function. They feature in our videos. I do think we reward them higher than, what the market is. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think it stands out a lot to me, and just I really appreciate it mainly because it's the years of the gig economy, right? And you see a lot of unskilled labor happening, a lot of people leaving behind their crafts for the search of money. So to be able to preserve the craft and sort of reward it, I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's just pretty cool.
What are your top 3 sneakers of all times?
So I would say the top 3 sneakers that I like is, I spent a lot of time in Australia. So I have this pair of boots called RM Williams. They are, I don't know, like a legacy company. It was used by cattle ranchers and outbackers in Australia. But now it's morphed into corporate Australia wearing boots. but leaving all of that aside, it's a really expensive pair of shoes, but I've had it for 8 years. And if you maintain them, it just keeps going. You can go 20 years as well. So it just shows that if you care for a product, it can just grow with you. And it has a lot of sort of occasions and memories, alongside me. So that's one. Second would obviously be Gully Labs. I should have come first, honestly.
I love that it's second.
No, but Gully Labs obviously for all the obvious reasons. Birkenstocks, I really like. Again, just me personally, I get enamored by having a pair of footwear that just ages really well with time. That means I've invested time and effort, and there is some sort of attachment to it, and it's sort of moved beyond a product. So I've worn Birkenstocks. I've had 3 pairs of Birkenstocks over the last sort of 8 to 10 years. And I've worn each one for at least 4 to 5 years until it's like really worn to the ground. I was really in CrossFit at once upon a time. So I've had like both, Nike Metcons and Reebok Nanos. I do think Reebok Nanos are the better ones. No one cares about Reeboks, but those shoes were really, really nice. Yeah, then maybe like a Vans Old School. I've always replaced my Vans Old School. I just think it's a really cool classic pair of shoes.
Yeah.
I was never like a traditional sneakerhead to get like Air Jordans or Air Maxes or Sambas or whatever. But I have really loved my shoes and the ones that I've had.
What's the most expensive pair of shoes that you have?
My RM Williams, I think they were like for 25 grand. But hey, I've had them for 8 years and it's like 3 grand a year. That is the same price as you would get for a fast fashion shoe. So, you can invest in good pieces. And there's a saying like in Hindi, Sasta roye bar bar, mehenga roye ek bar.
Nice. Awesome. I think that brings us to the end of
amazing
things.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much for being here. And
Right.
this was just a masterclass and a bunch of things. And I'm a
Amazing.
semi-sneakerhead now.
Okay,
Thank you.
awesome.